Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Digital Brand Building. Today's guest is Avinash Kalla. You may know him as the founder of the Vox Foundation, but he has also been a journalist for close to a decade, having worked with the Times of India and Mail Today. He then went on to start Talk Journalism, an initiative for collaborative online journalism. Avinash, thank you so much for joining us. If you could tell us a little bit about Talk Journalism and the idea behind it and how you were inspired to start the whole initiative.
Yeah, sure. Great to join you guys. Talk journalism as you said, it's a collaborative project, and it all came down when back in 2011 I came back from England. So I was a journalist from 2002 till 2009, and then I took a sabbatical and I went to England to study journalism for the first time. And that is where in 2010-11 the whole digital bug got on to me. And while I was a student, I had no idea what blogging was all about. I was with the Times of India. I was a print journalist. So a professor of mine introduced me to blogging. And then one fine day, while I was blogging on Julian Assange, I found my blog above the Reuters blog on the front page of Google. And I had no idea how did it happen. So that gave me a realization that, digital is the medium to go for. It is where you don't need a Times of India to be heard. You could be an individual, and if you have got content, you will be heard. And if you have done the things right, you can be above the best brand. So this is where the whole digital bug caught me. And I told myself that I'm not going to go back to mainstream after doing my master's. So once I was back in 2011, I started my first entrepreneurial journey with a project wherein I said there was a website that I launched called We Speak News.
Yeah.
And a businessman friend of mine joined in. And the idea was that there is somebody closer to the event who has captured it or who understands the event better than a journalist. So why don't we throw it out?
Right.
So that was a vague idea. I started with a website, and I was very proud of it. We had zero revenue. We had a 3-people team, and I was the only journalist around.
Right.
But the whole idea of creating a new space was very exciting way back in 2011-12. When people were starting out and nobody had heard of collaboration.
Absolutely.
So while I was at it, there was a gentleman based out of Ireland who reached out to me and said, we do something called Storyful. And we do video content, and we select it from YouTube and so on and so forth. And I said, yeah, we can collaborate. But I folded up my project. I wasn't business-wise and I had nothing else to do. So I was telling everybody that digital is going to change the newsrooms, and nobody was buying the idea.
Right.
So I said, what the hell do I do? So I said, okay. I went to a friend. I made a page called talkjournalism.in. And the idea was, let's talk about journalism, how it is changing. What are the nuances? Let's question people who question everybody else. Because as a journalist, we question people 365 days a year, 24/7.
Yeah.
But there are hardly any times when somebody takes a pause and gets questioned.
Right.
So that was the thought that, okay, let's try and bring journalists together to talk about our own selves. And that is what is talk journalism. So there was no brand building idea on it. It was simply on a impulse. I said, okay, talk journalism it is. Went to a friend who designs websites. He blocked that ID for me. We got the page up in less than 3 hours. And I started tweeting to people that, listen, I want to do a conference in Jaipur. Will you come in?
Right.
And I had zilch idea of hosting any conference or doing anything.
Right.
I couldn't even organize my daughter's birthday party, and I was here organizing a conference. So I went on to Twitter, and I had a following of around 239 at that point in time. 239 followers on Twitter. And here I'm telling the world that, listen, there is a place in Jaipur which is called Birla Auditorium. It is the biggest auditorium in my part of the world. I'm booking it. I'm going to do a conference, and we're going to talk about how digital is going to influence newsrooms in future. Absolutely. Who all can come there? And I knew nobody.
Right.
So I started sending random tweets. 1 or 2 people responded back. That gave me a high that 2 people responded. So replying. So on 16th July, the first talk journalism happened, and I had a speaker from Chennai as well.
Right.
There is a blogger called Kiruba Shankar in Chennai, whom I reached out on Twitter, and he luckily responded back and said, okay, I'll come across if you can pay the flight ticket. So I managed to get some 8 journalists and some 100 odd people. in an auditorium which was of the capacity of 1,200 people. So you could understand the magnitude of the event and the great success that it was for me and everybody else at it flopped. But on that day, I got a union minister to come in and see the event because he knew me as a journalist and he was excited.
Right.
So he came to inaugurate. So we had a minister to inaugurate us.
Right.
And we had a small BlackBerry on which one of the volunteers was recording it.
Right.
And it was transferred on some iframes that a friend used. And it was broadcasted back in England
Right.
on a journalism site called journalism.co.uk. That was my first collaboration.
Right. Okay.
So they aired an Indian show in an empty auditorium with 7 journalists, out of which 2 came from overseas. One lady, we flew in her from, I think she came in from Singapore with a documentary called Twittermentary.
Right.
And then there was the editor or the bureau chief of New York Times in India. She came in. There was a popular cricket writer, Ayaz Memon, he came in. Kiruba from Chennai, a couple of, that was an experience and that gave me a high that no, it can be worked out. I don't know about brand building or anything, but for me, that was a success. The minister saw and he liked what he saw. So he asked me to join him in the ministry the next day. So Talk Journalism took a break. And for 2 years, I was working with the union minister at the Road Transport and Highways Ministry, as well as railways, which he took on. And I was a consultant with Government of India for 2 years on digital access. And we did the first Google Hangout there, where people gave their thoughts and so on and so forth. So once the UPA lost elections, I was again jobless, came back to Jaipur, I had to start life again. And I said, I'll go back to Talk Journalism.
Right.
And then I was talking and I said, last time, people were a problem. So there was a friend of mine who said, I'll take care of the on-ground thing, just stop talking about it. Enough. So he was my colleague's brother. So that's how we became a partner.
Okay.
So the next day, we registered a not-for-profit called The Walk. We just thought of the name. We didn't even register it.
Right.
And we started looking at building the event. So in 2015, we had around 24 journalists who came in. And again, Twitter worked for me. I would write to everybody on Twitter. So right from writing those first tweets with 239 followers to today, wherever I have, and to even getting Edward Snowden to speak at Talk Journalism, everybody came on Twitter.
So 2012 really for you was just a deep dive into your first.
That was just my idea. And I keep telling all entrepreneurs, if you have something in your mind, go out, do it. You'll learn something.
Take that first step.
So take that first step. Believe in yourself. Believe in that wacky idea. Exactly. Believe in what my professor David used to say, wisdom of crowds. So people will come together. So till date, my organization just has 2 people on roll, one me and one my co-founder Jamil. And rest, it is all volunteers and friends who always come together. And today the size, by the grace of God, is so good that we have close to 84 journalists. We get over 3,500 people. And we do it at the poshest location in Jaipur called Fairmont.
You've arrived.
So that has been the story. No, it's not arrived. I never say it has arrived. It is one thing that I do for my own interest.
Right.
And we have, and I purposefully made it a not-for-profit. So we don't take money home. And it is for the students, for the larger good, so that people can understand this is what journalism is all about.
Okay. So again, talking about your journey with, how you did a sort of deep dive into digital marketing and your foray into Twitter from your 239 followers to now. If we take India itself, online journalism is kind of on the rise. Barka Dutt has her own YouTube channel called Mojo, and she has the Deshbhakt channel on YouTube as well. As well. So in your perspective, from 2012 up until now, how do you think social media or online journalism has kind of evolved?
To great extent, all these names that you have taken were big time television people.
Yes.
Barka was the group editor of NDTV. Akash was with headlines, and then he moved on to Mirchi. So all big names, and they have adapted to the new medium. And to newcomers like us who were print people who never had a face, social media gave a chance that everybody today is a broadcaster. Everybody today has a voice. So if you have the right kind of voice and a right idea, you will have takers and you can make it. Big or small is a matter of, it's something subjective. People can have their own yardsticks.
Yes.
With our small little festival that we just do once a year, I still say to everybody, we never get into content marketing, or while I'm talking about digital media, if you go and look at my YouTube channel, it's very bad. But for me, the idea is to use digital to create an on-ground event.
Yes.
So there are different ways of it. It has grown exponentially. Now people give stories and scoops to the dot coms. Big companies have invested in. Look at Lullan Talk.
Yeah.
It's another Hindi platform. And when it crossed over a crore followers, the YouTube CEO tweeted about it.
Yeah.
So language media, social media tools have made the space way more democratic. You have a lovely project called the News Minute
Yes.
by
Yeah.
Laura and Danya. It's a superb example. It has brought South India to mainstream.
Yeah.
So it has helped us also discover, and it has grown big, but I still say it hasn't touched its peak yet.
Right.
And the one good thing is that don't look at the number of people or followers or like. As long as your ultimate objective of reaching out is happening, you never know what is going to click.
Absolutely. And given your experience also, since as a journalist moving from print to the digital medium, and with all your talk journalism initiatives, if you had to list out some of the biggest challenges that you had to overcome, what would they be?
The mindset.
The mindset.
The big challenge was mindset. Of people understanding the whole idea that digital will click.
Mm.
The biggest of the names, and no offense, because they've never seen that, they were never experienced it. I took digital only because of my inauguration at the university, the first dinner we had. So ran into an argument with a professor who was drunk. So I was saying you were drunk, but I was high. So I said, I'll take on the course, and he was very notorious. And then I figured out why he was notorious.
Yeah.
Because digital was a real hard work.
Mm.
It's not just a simple blog and that you could keep it up. So he was a tough master. And many of these big names that we see, I can very well say, people like Shekhar Gupta, who now run the print, when they were the editors of Indian Express, they would say, I don't get on with Twitter. It's something new. And now they tweet it before they do it anything. So the curve has changed, and the mindset has now changed.
Yes.
Now people are accepting that, okay, this is a medium. Otherwise, it was the same people who would not look upon this.
Absolutely. And
So,
if you had to give, if there was a little news agency, a startup, or just an entrepreneur trying to make it big, had this one brilliant idea but didn't know how to execute it, what would be your advice to the ones trying to start off?
just go out and do the first thing that comes to your mind. When talk happened, I was always talking to my wife Archana, and I would tell her that, listen, this is what I have, this is what it is. And she would always say, if you are so passionate about it, why don't you do it once and we'll figure it out. If it is worth, we'll do it. If it's not, we'll close it. So the day I quit my job at We Speak News, the day I folded up, I took my scooter and went to that place and booked that venue.
Right.
So I had nothing on me. I had no speaker. And whatever last money I had put it on that counter and said, I am booking this place.
Right.
So that gave me a deadline that now I have to work on it and prove on it. So whatever else happened. But that is how. So any entrepreneur or anyone, if you have a wacky idea, just go out and put it out.
Yeah.
Don't just keep it to yourself.
Right.
And don't just talk about it with your friends.
Right.
Take the first concrete step and say, okay, if I have to do it, I'll do it like this. And that's how the dice will roll.
And what advice would you give to people looking to create a little niche for themselves? For example, we spoke about the News Minute and how they are now regarded as the go-to for all South Indian related news. And, Akash Banerjee has his own niche, and so does Varka Dutt. So what if they were trying to build their own identity? What would be the advice that you would give them?
First thing, as I said, go out and do it for the first time and be regular at it. You have to be consistent. What many people look at it is that they'll do it for 2 months, 3 months, and they will not see the curve moving beyond at an exponential rate. Not everybody is a Facebook, but you have to keep trying it. Mm-hmm. Even look at Nas Daily. I always give people an example of Nas Daily. So if you look at Nas, he set out with an example of making 1,000 videos nonstop, and that's a huge thing. Close to 3 years, you're going to create content every day. And he says, it took me 254 days to get the first video right. So if you lose your heart in between, then you've got. So any entrepreneur, you will fail. Go out, do your idea quickly, fail, learn, and do it again. Had I thought on that day that I just have 100 people turning up, mostly school kids and college kids, in an auditorium worth 1,200 people, and no great media coverage, I don't think I would have done it the next time. But because I was mad enough and said, listen, other than me and my wife, there were 98 others who came in. So there is an audience.
Right.
So go out and look for that audience. And I always say that, and I quote my former newspaper, The Times of India. It's the #1 media brand in the country. The newspaper itself. It doesn't reach 1% of the country.
Right.
All right. So even if you could get 1% of Times of India's reach, you will be a success. So don't leave your passion. Go out and keep at it. See, the first year we just had 6 speakers.
Yeah.
The next year we kept trying. We gathered 24. And 3 days before the event, Rajiv Sardesai agreed to come. And that was a coup.
Yeah.
And he said, 45 minutes is all I will give you. I said, take it.
Yeah.
And he was at my event for 2 hours, 45 minutes.
Wow.
And that gave it. So because he came and he tweeted about it. The next year I had more. Can you hear me?
Yes, sorry. I think there's a problem with the Wi-Fi. Just a second.
Hey.
Hi. I'm so sorry. There's a problem with the Wi-Fi here.
No worries. No worries. That's another digital India.
I'm sorry. Yes, you were telling me about how Rajdeep Sardesai attended your event. And
so Rajdeep topped in and he gave me 45 minutes. And again, the same old thing. I reached Rajdeep on Twitter.
Yes. Amazing.
So believe in that idea. And secondly, the timing of your message. Don't just bug people with their thing. There is something that I always say, follow the person you have to reach.
Yes.
Figure out the traits and then customize your message, because that is only 140, now 280 characters that you will get to connect to them.
Yeah.
So don't bother people. Just tweet it at the time when they are in a conversative mode. So that means you have to be on Twitter most of the time. That's what I did.
Right.
And that's how I got my success. So when he turned up, next time I got 4 more people from the Latvian zone. So you had Shekhar Gupta, you could reach out to Barkhadat. And then you have to be persistent. Like last year, I got the Pulitzer chairman to come to my event.
Right.
And I reached him on Twitter. I reached out to him on 2016, he couldn't come. 2017, he couldn't come. 2018, he couldn't come. 2018, he committed, but then there was some duty he couldn't turn up. 2019, he writes to me and says, listen, if it is happening, I can come this year.
Wow.
So it's not a matter of just leaving it out. You've got to be at your idea.
Absolutely.
And then you need to be smart enough. See, nobody owns it to you. When you start a new idea, nobody owns it to you. So you have to find ways around it. So when I got Edward Snowden, I done all the recce on him. So I spoke to a journalist who had worked with him on a story. He says, there is somebody who is defending him. I think that should be your best bet. So first I reached out to his lawyer, got him, booked his ticket, made friends with him. And then I made a request, can I get Edward to come in? And to my surprise, he agreed. So this is how you have to be at it.
Yes, sorry, there's something wrong with the Wi-Fi here.
No worries, no worries. So that's what I'm saying. You have to be persistent. So you ask me what should a new person should do? They should go out, do it first, fall down, learn from it, but do it the second time. If you don't get it the second time, do it the third time. And always take your chances. I'll tell one beautiful story which just made me short of a millionaire. Else I would have been a millionaire today.
Okay.
So while I was doing my talk journalism, I told you about a guy from Storyful, an Irish guy who reached out to me.
Yes.
So I was looking at speakers. So I gave him an invite to come. He couldn't get a visa, so he joined online on Skype. That was big technology in 2011-12. So he participated in the event from Ireland. It was 5 o'clock in the morning at his end, but he was gracious enough to come in. He spoke. And in the evening, he gave me an offer. He said, Avinash, you're doing something interesting. Why don't you work for Storyful? I said, what do I get in return? Because I had to repay a student loan, the Indian mindset, just did the first job, folded upon the first startup. They said, I can't give you money, but I can give you 1% or 1.5% of the Storyful pie, and you run the India operation. Fairly good. And then I got the Government of India job offer. So you had a salary coming in.
Yeah.
And a secure job and something called the Government of India.
Yeah.
At 34. So I took the Government of India, which was fine, and then he was all right with it. I took the job offer on 17 July 2012. On 23rd July 2012, one of the speakers and my friend, who was then the editor of Midday, sends me a tweet and said, this might interest you. I opened the link and figured out that Murdoch has bought Storyful for 125 crore Indian rupees.
Wow.
The same expression I had. I said, what a miss.
It's a wonderful story. That is hilarious.
Yeah, but that's the lesson that you learn. And still they haven't been able to make that kind of money.
Right, absolutely.
So be adventurous. Be adventurous.
Absolutely. And believe in yourself and be consistent in your efforts.
Believe in yourself, yes. Absolutely, yes.
So given that your story kind of began and grew with the help of Twitter, would you say that there is one particular social media platform that you think is most effective while building an audience and establishing your brand?
Yes, I think so. I'm a little biased and I always say I'm a dinosaur when it comes to technology.
Okay.
I started using it in my late 30s.
Right.
Or in the early 30s. And till date, Twitter is the only medium that I have mastered. So for me, it works.
Right.
And to each their own. Like I was talking about Kiruba, this friend of mine uses Facebook brilliantly.
Yes.
And he collaborates there. I've seen people who use Instagram better. But because I'm in business of news, and most of the news hounds are on Twitter, I think that is something that connects well with me. So it depends on your niche.
Yes.
So let's say somebody wants to go out and explore on travel and lifestyle, I think Instagram. If you have something else where you want to rise, have a larger audience, Facebook it is. So I think you need to, when you start out, you need to weigh your option, look at the traction where you're getting the best results, and then just go for the kill.
Can you tell us a little bit about your audience base and the kind of content that they look forward to from you and how you meet those expectations?
See, my audience base, I was very clear from day one when I started doing it that students, the future journalists need to know what the profession is really about. It is one thing to look at, let's say, a Barkha Dutt holding a mic at NDTV, 9 o'clock, and saying, this is the thing. But there are 10 people behind that Barkha Dutt who do amazing jobs so that she could perform at her best. So I always said that my audience is journalism students. They come looking to understand the back end of a story, and that is what we give them. So we have the best of the minds debating and discussing how they tackle stories, what are the trends, and what are the challenges they face. I remember first when Dhanya Rajendran came to our event, it was 2015 or 2016 when she had just started out. And since then, she has been coming regularly. Even Vignesh came, and we wanted to get that kind of story as well. So whatever be your journey or tool, just be at it and be consistent with it. That is all that is there. That has been my only experience. Use Twitter as my mantra.
So given that we are now still under, the pandemic with COVID-19 and everything, do you think that there has been any impact on the talk, your initiative, or even your
Yes.
following? Tell us about
Yeah, no, the following hasn't gone down anywhere, but there has been a lot of query because for the last 5 years we have done it in July every year,
Right.
and students come from all over the country. When I started in that big auditorium and a small audience, there was not much, and I really didn't have hope. But as friends and people came in, now we get people from 8 states of India traveling to Jaipur for those 3 days.
Okay.
They come in on their own, they put up on their own, and they make their projects around what they study and listen at talk journalism.
Right.
So we have started getting those queries. There were requests that we can do an online event, like most of other events have gone online. But I purposefully took a decision of not doing it online because there has been an overdose of it. And for me, online was never the platform.
Right.
I would always use it to garner support online and do an event offline.
Okay.
So yes, that way we have not been able to do our event. We had planned it for December, hoping that the pandemic and the cases will take a nose dip, but they've gone back up. So we will have to look at it, and I doubt it that we'll be able to do it in 2020. But yeah, you take it on the chin and go forward.
Right.
There was an option. My sponsors, Google, wanted me to do that.
Right.
That they had a choice open that we will sponsor the event if you do it online, but we didn't want to do it online. For us, the whole idea is one-on-one interactions that people have. It's
Right.
not about getting that and listening to Barkha Dutt on that stage, but those 10 minutes that you get with her downstairs, because they are there for 2-3 days and they are there to listen to you and talk to you. That is what talk journalism is all about. And as you said, what my audience asked for in my last question, they always ask for big scoops,
Yes.
big newsmakers, and a chance to grill them.
Right. And finally, Avinash, if you could tell us what the future of talk journalism is, and also if you could also touch a little bit upon the future of online journalism in the country, and where do you think it will be going forward?
See, the future of talk is give me a choice, and I would like to do it at as many places I could. From Jaipur, we have graduated to United Kingdom.
Yes.
So over the last 3 years, we have done 3 events in UK as well. So would love to expand it to the United States this year and do more chapters there. We'll want to create and curate more diverse conversations and reach out to far more students than that we could.
Right.
And hopefully optimize myself on the digital space, which I've not been able to do. I hope one day I'll be able to do that. And that is what talk looks like. And as far as online goes, I am very hopeful. And given the pandemic that many people are losing their jobs in the industry, I am hopeful that they will use this pandemic as an opportunity to create their own space and realize their potential beyond their newsroom.
Right.
So I hope to see more Barkhas, more Akashes to come out and fill the space with diverse opinions. And I think that is the need of the hour.
Anything else that you'd like to add?
Just go out and do whatever you want to do. Just don't hold back. You know, any and every idea has a space out there.
Right.
And always remember, Times of India doesn't reach 1% of the country.
Right.
So if they can be a brand in that, you know, digital gives you a platform to outreach them.
Absolutely.
So that is my thing. Don't hold back to any idea.
Right.
It's not just talk journalism that I do. All other things. Like I've recently come back from a trip of US. Now, who would imagine traveling 42 days covering US elections for no platform?
Right.
I used again my connections, helped it out, writing a book on it. So if you have any wacky idea in your head, just go out and do it. Otherwise, tomorrow morning, somebody else will do it. Somebody will sell it for 125 crores, and you will think, what the hell has happened on earth?
All right, Avinash, thank you so much for joining us, and we will hopefully
Pleasure.
talk to you soon. Thank you so much.